Good afternoon, everyone, or I guess for my left coasters, it's not quite afternoon yet, but how's everyone doing? Neil Wilding here with Stonewood Financial. As you can see, I'm joined by guest Jonathan Musgrave with Steep Digital Marketing. I want to welcome you to, this is really a first for us here at Stonewood. We are hosting what we're calling Level Up Your Leads. It's a limited series dedicated specifically to prospecting. And so regardless of how you got to know Stonewood, whether it be through our software, maybe you liked our books, maybe you came to a training event, or if you like our seminar content and like to do marketing, regardless of what door you came in, everyone loves to find prospects. And so I've never met an advisor that was content with what they have. So it's always about, continuing to grow your practice. And here at Stonewood, we pride ourselves on the content that we've written and created and how it complements our books and software and everything. But we also know our place in this industry, and we know that we're not equipped to be lead generators. And so that's why we created this series, because we're fortunate enough to work with several marketing companies that have taken our content and created lead generation programs for all of you all. So this series is going to be dedicated to many of those in the industry, and I'm happy to kick this off with a great partner of ours, Jonathan and Steep. We've worked together for several years now, and nothing but fantastic results that we've seen from many of our members that have used your services. So I'm going to hand things over to Jonathan. If you're new to Steep, they are expert at social media marketing and generating activity for both seminars and webinars using Facebook and other social media platforms. And just to be clear here, right, this is all about a partnership that we have. Steep is different company than Stonewood, and what they've done is they've taken our content and created a lead generation program for you. So as Stonewood members, you have access to to the content, and then Jonathan is going to show you how you can use that content successfully to host either a seminar or a webinar event. So Jonathan, why don't you go ahead and take us home? Just one more housekeeping issue. I see some questions already starting to come in. What we'll do is we'll have a good lengthy 15-20 minute Q&A session at the end. So keep those questions coming. I promise you we're not ignoring them. We'll tackle them here towards the end. Jonathan, I promise to hand it off now. Take it home.
Awesome, sounds good. I'm going to share my screen. Neil, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Awesome. I can, yes. Sounds good. Well, I super appreciate the opportunity to be on here, and obviously each of you attendees, I'm very honored that you spent the time with us today. I'll do my very best to offer as much value as I can in the time we have. And so we'll go ahead and get rocking and rolling here. So, Neil did a great job of setting this up, kind of explaining how the Steep and Stonewood partnership works. I think, in the same way that Neil admits, like, hey, lead generation isn't our thing at Steep, we're the exact same way. We say, hey, sometimes content isn't the thing that we do best. So I think when you have a partnership between a company like Stonewood and a company like Steep, you really have two companies working on your behalf to do different things that are both going to help you. And so what we've done is exactly what Neil said. We've taken a brand new presentation that Stonewood's come up with, and we've created a brand new brand for it. We've created all the marketing and lead generation stuff for it, and we'll be going through that in pretty great detail today. So I do want to start off by saying that although this is primarily about webinars, anything that we do on the webinar side of things can be used for the seminar side, and vice versa, seminars and webinars. So if you're in an area where you're allowed to and able to and want to go out and do live events, all the content and the tools that we have to talk to you about today can be used both for live events or for webinars. So we're primarily going to focus on webinars, but just keep that in mind as we go through here. So just a little bit of kind of heads up on what we're going to be covering today. This is just a kind of overview of where we're at and where we're going. Talk just a little bit about Steep if you're not familiar with us. We'll talk about the kind of webinar overview, and then really webinars are 4 different parts in one. And so I've chosen to kind of break out each element of that and make sure you understand exactly what it is that we're doing for you when you ask us to be your partner for marketing. So a little bit about Steep. I'm Jonathan, I'm the founder, founded in 2017. We've been doing a lot of digital marketing, anything from event marketing, live seminars, dinner seminars, webinars, lead generation. We've got over 200 campaigns a month that we do all across the country. So when you work with Steep, you're working with somebody who's got a large breadth of experience and is able to scale up and really serve a lot of people. We've been fortunate enough to become digital marketing certified partners and Infusionsoft certified partners. We're Facebook marketing partners, which means we're in the top 2% of all advertisers across the country. Gives us access to a whole team of data scientists and creative folk to help us make sure we're doing awesome marketing. Also been featured in the Colorado Companies to Watch for the last 2 consecutive years, and hopefully a third coming up here in 2021. So obviously we are really passionate about serving the advisory space. We don't work with pet shops and auto dealers and roofers like a lot of marketing companies do. We're really, really focused and invested in working specifically with advisors. So let's talk just a little bit about how turnkey webinars work. Turnkey is a name that sometimes needs a little bit of explanation. I want to make sure I help you understand what that means. What a turnkey webinar means is that there's not really a whole lot for you to do other than to be the presenter. We've got ads built, we've got pages built, we've got post-campaign systems built, really from A to Z. This entire thing is set up and ready to go. It really starts with a marketing brand, and you'll understand this a little more as we go through it. But what we do is we will create an identity online specific to the content that you're going to want to create, you're going to want to talk about. So in this specific instance with Stonewood, this new active saver campaign that the guys over there have come up with, we've created a brand around it called Save Smart, Retire Rich. And the goal with this campaign is not just to talk about retirement and investing like a lot of the programs that we're accustomed to doing. It's trying to find a little bit of a younger client, some of those people who are still saving. And I really like the term that Becky and the team have come up with called active savers. I think that really, really identifies who it is we're looking to reach. So people in their early 50s to their early 60s, and really that core audience of people who are great prospects for you and the planning that you do along with Stonewood. So when we talk about Save Smart, Retire Rich, that's the marketing brand and the identity that all this stuff is going to come from. And we are going to brand you and make this all about you and your practice. I'll show you how that happens. But we do have kind of that presentation built out for it from A to Z. So like I mentioned, there's 4 elements to a marketing campaign. I'll go through each one of these things together. Starts with seeing ads on Facebook. People who see that, click on it, go to a page. That page tells them everything they need to know about the event, and they can sign up there. Of course, before that, we'll do some confirmations to make sure they attend. I'll talk through that. You've got your actual webinar presentation, and then we've got a pretty in-depth automated follow-up system after that goes. So we'll break these down one at a time. Just a little bit about Facebook ads. Some people ask, hey, Jonathan, why are you guys so invested in Facebook? Why is that the #1 place that you spend money on advertising? And really it's because Facebook is the #1 place to be advertising. In fact, it's the #1 traffic source on the internet. People think the #1 traffic source is YouTube or Google, something like that. Back in 2020, Facebook actually surpassed Google and YouTube combined to be the #1 traffic source on the internet, with more than 40% of all the clicks to websites originating from Facebook. The cool thing for you and I is that it's not just traffic, because traffic's one thing, but really what we care about is our audience. Like, who is it that's actually active on there? And actually 70% of baby boomers are active on Facebook. It's the 2nd largest demographic on the platform. They spend about an average of an hour and 15 minutes every day on there. And so it makes it an ideal place, not just to advertise, but to find your ideal prospects. So a little bit about how our ads work. Yep, hold on. Here we go. Here's an example of Facebook ad. This is not the actual ad. This is an example. And of course, you got the Save Smart, Retire Rich, but this is kind of what it's going to look like when we launch your campaign for you. We're going to target people specifically in your local market, and we'll send targeted traffic to them just like this. The nice thing about this is we're able to get really granular with targeting and make sure we're finding people who are highly likely to convert and also are great prospects for you. Every time we build a campaign out, we're going to launch anywhere from 12 to 20 different ads for that campaign. And then every single day while our campaign is running, our team of traffic specialists is in there finding which ads are converting the best and reallocating the traffic to be only for those higher producing ads. So the way to think about this is, let's just pretend you're doing direct mail and you say, hey, I don't know if red envelopes are going to get open more or blue envelopes are going to get open more. Let's just, instead of sending 10,000 to one, let's spend 5,000 on each of these and then see which one opens more, which is cool because you might see like the red get open more than the blue. The problem with direct mail is you may not be able to actually respond and do anything about that. The mail's already printed, it's out in houses, and you don't have a magic wand to change your blue envelopes into red ones. So the cool thing about dynamically being able to do this through digital is that in real time, when we find efficiencies, we can reallocate our spend and make sure that we're getting the most leads for the lowest price possible. So when we have 20 different assets out there, we'll find out pretty quickly which ones are converting, and of course reallocate all of our traffic into there. These ads are all written to be very specific to the content is that you're presenting, and obviously targeted specifically to the group that we're marketing to. Okay, the second phase after ads, once somebody sees that ad, they're going to click on it and they'll arrive at a landing page. A landing page is just like a web page with a key difference of not having any navigation on the page. When you go to a website, the idea is to explore and learn. If you go to the Stonewood site right now, you'll learn about the team and their books and their programs and the people that work there, how to get in touch with them, maybe a blog. That's what a website's designed to do. What a landing page is designed to do is to make an offer and to give you one choice. You either fill out that page or you leave, and that's as simple as it is. But by doing that and eliminating so much of the things that distract us, we're able to get a really high conversion rate on that page. And so we'll design a landing page specifically for your campaign. It's totally customized to you. It's going to feature your name, your company name, your photo, your bio, your disclosures. We'll edit that thing to make it look exactly the way you want it to look and make sure that it's compliance approved. One of the things that makes our pages unique is that we do capture a lot of information about leads to make sure that you have everything that you need to get in touch with people. People are going to give us their name, their email, their phone number. If we're doing a seminar, we'll also get a mailing address. If there's multiple date options, of course, they'll select that. If there's multiple people in their party, we'll get that. And so it gives you a lot of ways to get back in touch with people. One of the things I think that we all realized in Corona last year is that our lists are super, super valuable. Some people that had to cancel events or, stop doing radio or television or whatever it was you were doing, they relied really heavily on the list that they had built and going back out to that list to re-engage prospects. So by getting all this information, we give you the email address, we get people to opt in for text messages, we get mobile numbers. You've got a lot of different ways to reach out to those prospects. So in addition to the business you're going to get right off of the webinar, I think being able to build that list is a really, really important part of that. And that all starts with capturing that information on the front end, which we do a really good job at. I mentioned a little bit about split testing on our ads and how we have a variety of different ads. We actually have different landing pages as well, and I'll show you what this looks like. Here's an example of the Save Smart Retire Rich landing page that we've made. And you can see the headline, have you been saving the wrong way for retirement? If so, you could be poised to save thousands or to pay thousands in taxes. And so we're taking this contrarian approach to like, hey, what you've learned in the past may not apply and work the best right now. And we're also talking to them about, obviously the tax savings and all of the other things that are that come with proper planning. But what you see on the screen right now is going to look a little bit different the next time we do it. We've got another version of the page. The rules for retirement savings have changed. This is kind of that idea of totally challenging the status quo and making sure that everything that people have become accustomed to thinking and knowing about retirement may not be exactly the way that it is today. And so it positions you as a thought leader and somebody who's different, has a different opinion, a different perspective on how things work and how they should work going forward. So again, we'll have different versions of this page. We'll make sure we get the one that converts the best, and then we will reallocate our traffic to the one that's converting as best as we possibly can. Okay, so once somebody signs up for the webinar, how are we going to get them to attend? Well, we've got a really, really in-depth process to make sure that we maximize the number of attendees. We actually get about 2 times the industry average attendance rate for webinars. The average attendance rate is about 16%. At Steep, we're averaging 40%. There's a few reasons that we have a higher show rate. The first is that we have a very specific and condensed marketing schedule. A lot of times when we're doing seminar marketing, we'll have ads on for 2 weeks at a time, and that's important because people need time to plan, to get out of their house, to go visit somewhere. With webinars, we find that people want information a lot more quickly, a little bit more impulsive, a little bit more immediacy, a little bit more intense desire for it. And so we condense that schedule down to only 4 days. And what we found is that by reducing the amount of time that somebody has between when they sign up and when they show up for a webinar, that has a lot to do with what that attendance rate looks like. And so it's a really, really key part of what we do. Another thing we do is we send out emails, and every single email that we send out has a calendar reminder in it. So when somebody saves that calendar reminder onto their computer, now we're bypassing email. Like, we are not dependent on the inbox in order to get our messages displayed. Instead, you might have a prompt that shows up on your cell phone and say, hey, Jonathan, that event that you signed up for is starting in an hour. And now the iOS system or the Google system on their phone is actually prompting those out to them as opposed to just the emails. And then the other thing we do is we do get text opt-ins for every mobile number that comes in. We send text reminders out about 30 minutes before an event starts. Of course, that's got a link that they can click on and go and join your seminar or your webinar. And all those things together add up to a really, really high, solid attendance rate for your campaign. So after your webinar, we'll talk a little bit about the webinar platform. The platform we use for webinars is called Easy Webinar. The reason we chose Easy Webinar is because the name says it all. It's very easy. GoToWebinar is great in a corporate environment like this, but sometimes maybe some of you got on here and it clicked and said, hey, do you want to download this extension to your browser? Or do you want to open GoToWebinar? Or maybe if you're on a mobile device, you have to download the GoToWebinar application on your phone or tablet. Those things are fine in a corporate environment, but specifically when we're targeting people in that 50+ range, we want to minimize any technical issues that could cause people to not join. Easy Webinar is fully web-based, so if somebody clicks it, it'll open up in Safari or Chrome or whatever browsers they use. No extensions, no add-ons. It's very, very simple, single click on any device. It also gives us the ability to integrate the full suite of marketing tools that we use on your behalf, which includes all the automation that I talked about, including text messages and a bunch of other things as well. The great thing about Easy Webinar is that it doesn't cost anything for you. We actually absorb that cost of the software for the webinar on your behalf, and that's just all included inside of your campaign. Now, the way that we found to get the best response rate when it comes to what we really care about, and that's appointments from your webinar, we use a tool called Calendly. And if you have something similar like Schedule Once or something like that, we can use those as well. But there's actually the ability inside of Easy Webinar to create a direct call to action. And this allows us to say, hey, at this specific point in time, when I make this point, I want to say, hey, pop up an offer on my screen. And over on the right-hand side of your screen, it'll pop up and say, hey, click here to take advantage of that offer. That offer is going to redirect them to your Calendly page where they can schedule a 15-minute call with you. So you've got an ability to go directly from a webinar like this to a scheduled call without ever lifting a finger. Another important thing I probably should have mentioned earlier is that you have the choice with webinar marketing, whether you want to do this live, like we're doing this right now. We're doing this live. It is Tuesday, May 25th, 12:17 Mountain Standard Time in Denver, Colorado right now. We can do it this way, or we can say, hey, let's pre-record this thing and have it as a resource that can be used in the future. So you can get all set up in advance, record it. Then you go on vacation to the beach, have your webinar play on demand. When you get home from vacation, you've got an entire calendar worth of appointments ready to go for you. So you've got that option as well. But doing that 15-minute call is the best way that we found to maximize appointments from webinars. And Calendly is something that if you don't have, you can set up really easily, and it's actually totally at no cost. Okay, so your webinar is over. What happens next? You've got some people who booked appointments with you directly, but you also have people who didn't. And when you look at what happens during a webinar, people are going to fit into one of 4 different categories. They're either attended and set an appointment, or they attended and didn't set an appointment, or they didn't attend at all. And so you've got the ability to have like a different way to follow up with each of these different prospects. The thing that we found to work the best is that people who don't show up, sending a replay out to them is a really, really awesome way to re-engage them. On top of the 40% live attendance rate that we see, we oftentimes see as much as another 10 or 15% of the people who don't attend actually watch the replay. So it gives you a higher number of people who are actually engaging with your content. And all those calls to actions that I talked about with the calendar, direct set appointment setting, that all works in the replay version of this as well. So whether they show up live or whether they watch it later, they're gonna have the same experience. We actually have a pretty cool in-depth process for re-engaging people who don't attend. And what you can see on the screen might look a little complicated, but it's kind of all these if-then statements that cause us to be able to remarket to people, get them to watch your replays. If they watch the replays, send them into a sequence that's going to push them directly back to your calendar. And so one of the things that's awesome about webinars is that we're totally in control of the process from a technical standpoint. Nobody has to check in or like tell us who showed up and didn't show up. All that stuff is logged and it's all available to us, which means we can automate off of it. So we can see who shows up and doesn't show up, and then we send different reminders out to those people. We can see who watches the replay and push those people into a call to action sequence to get them to schedule an appointment with you. So you know, this may seem a little bit complicated. I think this might be a good time to take a breath and just remember that this is a done for you program. This is something our team here at SEEP is going to build out 100% for you, make this process really easy. So I only put this on the screen to let you know there's a lot going on in the background, but also I want to assure you that this isn't something you really have to worry about because our team's going to do most of that work for you. So let's talk a little bit about best practices and how to make sure that we're planning events that are going to have the best response rate possible. First of all, I mentioned our 4-day traffic window. We find that when we run that 4-day traffic over a weekend, we get the highest amount of response rates. So that means if we schedule a webinar on a Tuesday, then we're launching that campaign late on Friday the week before. We're running over the weekend when we have the highest engagement. Among baby boomers, we see about a 30% increase in screen time on the weekends. And so by putting our ads out primarily during that weekends, we're really kind of getting more for our money and being able to engage more people. So weekend advertisings are awesome. And to do that, then that means Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are kind of the best days of the week. And attendance just being good days of the week to make sure people show up. It also helps us take advantage of that. If I had to choose any webinar date and time, I'd probably say a Tuesday would be my favorite, just because if it's really in with that 4-day weekend advertising schedule. In terms of the time of day, a lot of people in that 50 to 65 range are still working, which means if they're unable or unwilling to adjust their work schedule, a daytime webinar or seminar isn't going to work for them. So by doing it in the evening, we make sure that we eliminate as many schedule conflicts as we possibly can and get as many people able to join live as possible. So 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock are good start times for weekday webinars. And then the fourth best practice I'll share with you is just plan ahead of time. We can implement webinars really quickly. I put on here, we can do it as little as 2 weeks. We've turned some of these things around like the next day, get an order today, push play on traffic tomorrow. It's not an ideal situation. A lot of times there's rush fees and stuff that are associated with it. Our normal lead time is about 2 weeks. So if you look out in the future and say, okay, 2 weeks from today, or 2 weeks from my webinar date is the 10th, that's the day that we want to be on the phone talking and getting that order submitted. But I would say planning ahead is going to really help you. The first time you do a webinar with SEEP, we're going to want to make sure we do a lot of training with you and you understand how the webinar works. We're going to want to make sure we understand compliance and do we need to get video replays approved in advance, all of these different things. So leaving 1 extra week before your first webinar is a great idea. So if you haven't done webinars with SEEP before, I'd say let's plan on 3 weeks for the first one and then 2 weeks after that. So setting up for success, how we can help you even more. One of the things we really think is important is to have professional technical support. So we have a team of people who will walk you through, make sure you understand exactly how the webinar is going to work. We have a video that's going to show you that. We also have a coaching video where yours truly will walk you through what I have found to be the best method to actually present and make sure that you're getting the most appointments possible, how to deliver a compelling presentation. I give this example to people who specifically have experience with seminars. They say, Jonathan, I'm a great presenter. I've done 100 of these and no one's ever left my seminar midway through. Well, doing something in person and doing it online is totally different. How many of you guys right now, you don't have to answer this question, how many of you guys right now are watching this webinar, but on your other screen over here, you got Facebook or Twitter open, or you're trying to figure out if Aaron Rodgers is going to leave Green Bay. You may be distracted by something else, or maybe I'm boring and like 2 minutes from now, you're going to click off the screen and stop watching. You see, we have a unwritten social contract when we're in person where you have to give that person your attention. But once you transition into online, now all of a sudden people can do whatever they want. They can end the webinar and leave. So making sure that you have a plan to be engaging and interesting and deliver your message in a powerful way is really important. We've got some great tools and training that we'll give you when you do a campaign with us that'll make sure that you've got the ability to present interesting content online in a powerful fashion. We also have 2 people on your team that are going to be direct points of contact, both an account manager and a campaign specialist. So a couple other things to know, and then I'll pitch it back here to Stonewood and make sure that we can get all your questions answered here before we're gone. We don't have any cap on our performance, which means that when you see a flat rate price, like here, for example, that medium campaign is $3,700, we're going to target to get 40 registrations. If we were to get 50 or 60 or sometimes even 80 registrants for that campaign, you're not paying us any extra. There is an advantage, and I understand pay per lead, but I think when you've got no cap on your performance, it allows you to really decrease your cost per lead and maximize the overall return on investment with your marketing. So that's kind of a cool thing that we do. We also do what we call multi-channel marketing. Let's say that you've got a database of 2 or 3 or 5,000 people that are in your system that you can send emails out to. We'll actually create a totally separate campaign for you where you can send email traffic out for the same webinar that you're doing and get more people registered through your list. And then we can partition that to where we know what leads came from the advertising that you paid us to do and what leads came from your list. But that way you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and get a lot of people signed up for your campaign without spending any more money, something that's for free and included in every single campaign. I mentioned there's no software costs. We've got great support. We have a lot of topics available. I think specifically the Stonewood Save Smart, Retire Rich is going to be a really cool addition that should help you reach a brand new audience that we've never really targeted before. That active saver market is going to be ideal for your insurance planning practice. And then I talked a little bit about attendance right there as well. So Neil, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. I would just encourage you, if you have interest in what I've talked about today, the best place to start is to talk to the Stonewood team. There's a great relationship that you're going to get at Stonewood, being able to access the software and the support from their team. We need to get that sorted out first. It's important for me to point out that everything I've talked to you about today is exclusive to Stonewood. So you're going to want to make sure you talk to those guys and make sure you're straightened out. Once you've had that conversation, then we can engage with you on this campaign and make sure that we're doing a great job to support you as well. So Neil, I will, you told me 20 minutes, I'm at 21 minutes, 23 seconds. So
spot on, man. And the thing is, you know, you talked about people kind of venturing off screen and stuff. You know, GoToMeeting keeps track of those stats for me. And I would say that your numbers are off the charts. People paying attention because we're talking about helping, you know, folks find people. And I know that it's a, you know, it's the lifeblood to any business. You know, just first off, just some comments, and then we'll get to your questions. You know, here at Stonewood, because we put out a lot of content, we get a lot of questions from our members just saying, hey, you know, I want to dabble in Facebook. Hey, I've got this Facebook account for my business. Can you send me some content so I can make a post or two about it? I just want you to understand that it's fine if you want to do that. But this is a whole different ball game here. I mean, if you really want to effectively use Facebook, you got to hire an expert. You're not going to do it yourself. And I'll tell you that I don't know. You probably picked up on it just from Jonathan and how much time he spent in this world. But I've yet to meet anyone in this industry that knows that platform better than Jonathan and his company at Steep. They really know it well. And so if you're thinking about incorporating Facebook and Facebook marketing in your practice, these are the guys to work with. They're really good at it. And it's quality stuff. Don't think that, you know, and he put his prices on the screen there. A lot of people think, oh, I might use social media because it's inexpensive. It's not that, but it's worth every penny you put into it because you're dealing with experts and they're really good at it. So congratulations on what you've built. You guys are a great company and a great partner. So some of the questions, and then someone had asked about like membership. So I know on this in this series, we have some advisors that are Stonewood members on our premium content, some that are Stonewood Select members, and others that maybe just kind of kicking the tires on Stonewood. The nice thing about this platform that we have, if you're going to hire Steep to do all of this work, you don't owe Stonewood anything extra. You have access to all of the content they are going to use by being a Stonewood member. So yes, you'll have to hire Steep, and there'll be some costs in the campaigns that they build for you, but nothing extra here from Stonewood. You know, it's all part of being a member and being in our community. So now let's get to some of these questions. Someone asked about the timing of like when you capture a guest's name. So like when we're doing a campaign, I guess that they'll see an ad and then they click that ad and it'll take them to that landing page. So you don't really know who they are yet. So I guess the key here is getting them to opt in to something, right? And that's why it's so important to have that Calendly link. Is that how it works, Jonathan?
Yeah, so the Calendly link's primarily going to be in the actual webinar presentation. But at the time they sign up for the webinar, we're going to capture their name, email, phone number, get them to opt into emails and text messages, and that's the point at which we'll actually have the opportunity to communicate with them with emails and texts. And then one thing I didn't mention is we actually give all that information to you in real time. So sometimes you'll hear about, hey, I don't get my leads until after my webinar is done, or because I pay per attendee, I only get it once. Like for the people who show up, we don't play any games with that. We just give it to you exactly at the time it shows up. We have a roster, and we call it our webinar roster. You'll have a link to it. It shows up in real time. That roster will keep pulling in data too. After the webinar is over, it'll show you who showed up, who didn't show up. If they set an appointment, all that stuff will be there. So you'll get all that stuff in real time, both when they register to begin with, and then obviously when the webinar takes place as well.
Yeah, and so to me, if you're, we talk about the lifeblood of our business as prospects. Some of these people, you're going to be blessed to capture them the very first time they heard of you, and they'll sign up and they'll click on the ad and they'll register for the webinar and then book an appointment. Those are the great ones, but that's not everybody. And so then, but still, like once you've got their name, now they're part of your list. And you can use that for, maybe you'll capture them with a different message or some sort of follow-up. And so, anytime, at Stonewood, we kind of call that list building. And so if we can just do this to build people and add people to your lists, it's just going to, even if you only close a couple of clients from this campaign, you're still going to have, 5, 6, 7 more chances at them later on with other campaigns. So I think that's a great point to make about just capturing that name. Someone else asked about the technology that you're using for the actual webinar. You mentioned, what's it called? Easy Webinar?
That's correct.
And so when they're watching the webinar, is it an easy, I know it's a web page, and so it just automatically plays. I guess the question we had was around Easy Webinar, and is there an option to like say, watch this now, or do you think it's better to always have them pick an event that's in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the functionality exists to do that, Neil. What that's called is a just-in-time webinar where you can just click and watch it right now. I think I'm looking at my browser over here in this window. I've got 3 YouTube videos open that I want to watch later. They're all marketing, like nerd stuff that I'm interested. And I think that kind of speaks to the point of like, hey, sometimes we have these intentions to take action on things, and when you can do them at any time, sometimes the time you do them is never. When we give a specific date and time where something occurs, that's how we're able to get those attendance rates we're talking about. So it's certainly possible to do it. I'll just tell you, like having spent $3 million on traffic in the last 12 months, we can say definitively you're going to get the highest number of attendance and the highest number of registrations and appointments if you do it at a single point in time. So there are all of these cool internet marketing tricks out there, and some of them work great in other spaces. I'll tell you, like for the market you're trying to reach and for the message you have to tell people, doing an event at a specific date and time is the way to really maximize the value of your campaign.
Cool. Yeah, and that's one of the things where we here at Stonewood, like we had opinions on that, and then finally we decided, wait a minute, let's trust the experts. And so, if you're going to bring these guys on to host a campaign, I think it's really important. I mean, they will listen to you, and ultimately you're the client. But I think what they're saying is they're going to give you ideas that what works, because you're not going to come back to them if the program doesn't work. Question around like location. So someone had asked about like, are there certain areas of the country that work better? I know it's funny, there's like perception versus reality. There's a lot of myths out there. And I think one of them is that like, social media only works in certain areas of the country. Why don't you go ahead and dispel that myth right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that matters for Facebook advertising is we have to have enough people in the audience to reach. And we'll coach you through what that audience looks like. It might be 50,000 or 100,000 people, whatever that might be. But as long as you can build your audience to the size that we need it to be, then you're not really going to have a whole lot of like regional variance in terms of your advertising. So I always say Louisville. I know it's Louisville. If you're in Louisville, Kentucky, and you can get, you go out 15
like
miles.
You got a mouthful of marbles.
Louisville.
Yeah.
All right, we got it. If you're in Louisville and a 15-mile radius gets you 100,000 people, maybe you're in downtown Los Angeles and a 5-mile radius gets you 100,000 people. Like those are the same market. Yeah, they're in different parts of the country, different types of people in that audience. But as far as we're concerned about, once we can get to that count, you really can do whatever you want. I think one of the cool things about webinars, Neil, is like I talk about erasing boundaries on a map. A lot of times we're used to thinking like, okay, well, I can only go 6 miles out because people won't cross that highway or that bridge to get to my office. Like this is all online, and we can reach people exactly where they are. So, I have one guy who lives in Arizona, and he decided to spend the Corona year in Hawaii. He moved his whole family out there. He's still running his practice in Arizona. We're doing a ton of marketing for him there, but everything he's doing is out of state. So I think it's a really good opportunity for us to just kind of like refresh our perspective on our business and think differently about it. But if you're concerned about your area, I think the only way I would be really, really concerned is if we couldn't get to that audience size. But if you're in rural Arkansas and you're like, hey, we have to go out 30 miles to get to that audience, as long as we can get to that audience size, we're going to be just fine. You're not going to see a huge variance in response rate.
Yeah. I know a lot of people too are thinking, oh, it's like, live events are back and live events are hot, and they actually are. I don't want to say that, but that doesn't mean we should abandon these webinar practices that we've learned and become expert at. I think there's a great opportunity for everyone to kind of use one to complement the other. And also expand markets, right? Like what he's talking about, and going into areas where maybe you can't get your folks to drive 100 miles for a seminar, but for a webinar, all day. So let me look. I think we've got a couple other questions. I think you mentioned, Jonathan, in your presentation, you talked about like personal training and how you can help folks. I don't know where that phrase came from, but someone kind of quoted it. So that might be something that you guys do. Before I let you expand on that a little bit, one of the benefits of working with Stonewood, if you're a member, you get one-on-one coaching. And that's not just us showing you how to run reports and run software. Marty, Becky, myself, we've all got countless, hundreds of hours of experience doing not only live events, but also these webinars. And so anytime you've got an event, I'm going to say that you've got all sorts of options here at Stonewood to get coached up on that event. What are the areas you really need to hit on and emphasize, how to set your office the right way and dress and all that kind of stuff. We can help you with that. I'm guessing you guys do a little bit of that too, Jonathan.
Yeah, there's really two ways that we're going to help you with that. First of all, we're going to help make sure you understand the technology. Neil and I were kind of joking along beforehand with all these buttons on our screen, and we've got a record option, a play button, a pause, and like all of these different choices. And if you're doing a webinar and you're distracted by all the stuff on your screen, you're not going to present very effectively. And so one of the most important and first things we need to conquer is just understanding what the technology is like and making sure that when you're presenting and you're not worried about everything else. And so that's the first thing we'll do is walk you through. We'll spend an hour or however much time you need, but at least an hour making sure you understand the platform, how to get your screen to share, how to get your video. If you want to have like a video that you play in advance, how that's all going to work. So just make sure you understand the technology. The other thing we'll do is we'll actually walk you through the fundamentals of setting appointments on webinars. And that's one of the things that you may not intuitively be great at. Some of the guys that we have that are the biggest producers out there that work with us on our webinars, they really struggle to set appointments when they very first started out. And so I think keeping an open mind and letting us kind of walk you through that process. Hey, when should I put my offer up? How long should it stay up? How should I refer to it? All of these things really matter. And so that's stuff that our account managers will work with you on. I also have that recorded video that I think is, when we first had that training released, we were charging like $200 for it. We just decided, hey, anybody who's doing stuff with us, we're just going to give them that training for free. Cool. So you'll get a lot of support, as much as we can possibly help.
Yeah, well, and the whole point, just like with membership here at Stonewood, if you're not successful, you're not going to come back. And so we want to make sure that you're successful. Now, to that point, I know we did have some questions on pricing and how, like some people asked, is it tied to the time or to campaign? Let's just kind of remind folks, how this is. This is not a per lead price. This is really more per campaign. And Jonathan just made the point, and I want to emphasize, don't just come into this and just think I'm just going to do one event and get out, right? Like if you're going to give this a try, I think it's important to invest in it. And that is not only your hard-earned marketing budget, but also your time, and make sure you put that time into it. Jonathan, why don't you just kind of talk them through like not only what the numbers are, but how you kind of define those ranges there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to confirm, my screen's still up, Neil.
Yeah.
You could. Okay.
Yeah, so you're not in presentation mode, but I can see it.
Okay, sounds good. So we have 3 different sides. We actually have a 4th one that's not on here. I'll talk about in a second. But really, what we're going to do is say, what is the objective of your campaign? How many people would you like to get signed up? And then keeping in mind what we know about a 40% attendance rate average, how can we reverse engineer the correct campaign size to help you reach your objectives? So if you think, hey, I'm going to set 20 to 25% appointments and I want to have at least 5 appointments, that means we need to have 60 people on there, whatever that works out to be. We'll kind of coach you through making sure you have the exact campaign size. But to get really specific and tactical on how this pricing works, what we do is for each of our campaigns, we have a defined budget and a defined target. So, hey, small campaigns, $32.50, we're going to try to get 25 people signed up. What we'll do is we'll put the pedal down on advertising and we'll go as fast as we can to get to that 25 registration number. Now, that number is not guaranteed. It's important to know that if we hit 24 the next day after your campaign, we're not going to give you a discount or refund. That's kind of how the flat rate pricing model works. But conversely, if we were to get 50 or 60 people signed up, you're not going to pay anything up and above that. So that's why we call it flat rate pricing. What you see is what you get. We're putting these targets out there, but again, if we're slightly below or if we're way over, you're not going to pay anything different than that. The new webinar size that we just created that's not on the screen here, we call the mega webinar. The mega webinar is $8,000, and we try to get at least 200 people signed up for it. So it's not free. I think it's probably not the first campaign I would do. I'd want to make sure I have my presentation and my call to action really ironed out. But if you kind of look at the numbers on that, like $4,200 for 50 leads, and then at $8,000 you get 200 leads, we're able to once we get aggressive with budget like that, the numbers are kind of exponential. So there's some cool stuff we can do kind of once we get further down the road to really scale up your practice and make sure we have a lot of people on your event. But that's kind of a good overview of how that flat rate pricing works.
Yeah, cool. And then someone asked about ad spend. That's irrelevant. That's built into your pricing. So, right?
Yep. I mean, the way I'd like to think about it is like what you're buying from us is an advertising. You're buying our experience and all of there's 50 different things we're doing for you with this campaign. So we're going to set a target for it. And the other thing to know is that we have discretionary funds that we save and we spend. If we have a campaign that's at 23 and we really want to hit, we'll throw extra money at that and make sure we get our target. So yeah, that's kind of how it works.
So, and actually, I think we're probably going to wrap things up here. So maybe we'll take this question and use this as our jumping off point. One of the advisors asked us about the content itself. So the presentation that is delivered in the webinar is part of your Stonewood membership. So actually, by attending this and being a Stonewood member, you already know what the presentation looks like. And so if you don't, it means you haven't gotten the full benefit of your Stonewood membership yet. So go in, check out those presentations. Those are the slides that you're going to use in the webinar. Jonathan's already seen them, and they use those to build out all the stuff around it. So these, everything that he's built was not done in a vacuum. It was built to customize the presentation that you're going to give. Now, that being said, if there's a certain way that you like to present, let's say our slide deck is, 50 pages, and you say, you know what, I've got this good presentation that I like, but I would rather, use 25% of your presentation here or there or whatever. That's always flexible. You can do it if you like. I would say don't vary too much from it, because go with what works. But it is fully customized to we are not advertising a Stonewood webinar event at all. Stonewood is way behind the scenes here. You're using our content. Everything that he mentioned here, the Facebook ads, they take you to a landing page. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Jonathan, that landing page is branded as the advisor, right? Or is that branded as the campaign?
No, it absolutely is. If you look at the bottom, it's kind of cut off here, but you can see about your host with the advisor name. We're going to customize this for you, and it's going to, you'll have your photo and your bio and your name, your contact information, your disclosure. The whole thing will be really customized for you.
Right. And then when you give the presentation, customize the PowerPoint to where it's, it's you giving it. We're not anywhere to be seen there. That is your presentation customized. And then of course, all of that follow-up email that he's talking about, the nurture, catching them later on, that's all customized as well. So don't think that this is a Stonewood event. We just created this content, and then Jonathan took everything and ran with it so that you can plug it into your practice and market you all. And then, we had another question about accessibility to the slides. If you're talking about the Stonewood slides, like I said, the PowerPoint, there's even recordings of us out there giving it. It's all available inside your account. Now, if you want to get some more specifics on, the details of actually working with Steep, I would just say start with working. If you're a Stonewood member, reach out to your member services representative. They can get you in contact with Jonathan and the team at Steep. If you're not a Stonewood member, well, then let's start with that first and get you set up with Stonewood, because you do have to be a member in order to use all of this content. So I would just say, I know Jonathan put his contact info out there. If you want to go right to him, you can. But I do think it's probably good, since you already have a relationship with your Stonewood member services person, just come to us from that. So Jonathan, any parting thoughts?
I'll tell you one thing before we take off here. I think sometimes when I'm involved in a training like this, I'll get feedback a week or 2 weeks from now, and Neil will call me up or shoot me an email and say, hey, Joey was on the webinar and he did a campaign, he had awesome results. And as much as I want to be excited about that, like hearing one isolated success story is a little bit discouraging to me. And I think what I think I would take away from this is really a lot of times what separates somebody who has outstanding results and someone who doesn't is just simply the people who take action. And ideas are awesome, and ideas are like the beginning of like where we're going to go to, but like at the end of the day, the only way you're going to see results is if you implement it. And I'm not saying to take a flyer and just throw money at something that you don't really understand. Like, you need to make educated choices, but really like the thing that's going to separate those success stories that we get 2 weeks from now and the ones that we don't get are just really the people who take action and implement it. So that would be my encouragement to you. Like, ideas are awesome, but take these ideas we've shared with you and go put them in your practice, and I think it'll be better for you in the long run.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, I tell you, awesome job, man. We had we started with a certain number and we're still at that number. So we kept everyone's attention for a good 45 minutes. I'm excited to see all the follow-up from this. I know your phones are gonna be ringing off the hook. I'm excited to get so many of our members using some of this content that we've created and out, generating successful campaigns for their practice. Nothing sells like results, and I'm excited about the results that we have and can't wait to hear about more success stories moving forward. I appreciate your time, Jonathan. All of you on the webinar, thank you for being Stonewood members. As always, we certainly appreciate everything you do for us, and look forward to talking to you here soon. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.